right, Mahomes versus Hurts is what we'll start at the quarterback position. Mahomes going for his third straight Super Bowl, fifth overall? What is it?
This would be their fourth, right?
Fourth overall, chasing Brady, chasing Montana still.
Chasing everybody.
But everyone assumes that at some point he will be the GOAT versus Jalen Hurts, who faced Mahomes a couple years ago, lost, but played really well.
Played very well.
But yet a lot of people kind of put that Super Bowl loss on him because of a huge fumble in that game. But going into this game, I mean, you look at the stats comparison, Mahomes even though it was one of his worst years, 26-11 is still pretty damn respectable.
Yeah.
Almost 4,000 yards, yeah. And the 300 yards rushing, that's the part that haunts me still from the Super Bowl last time we were there, is the rushing yards from Patrick Mahomes in the big moments.
He's legitimately sneaky athletic. Like that. Like people say that a lot. He's very much like he can outrun defensive ends. Yeah.
So we'll see if that plays a factor. I don't think there's going to be much debate here. The answer to me is Mahomes. Yeah,
it's Patrick Mahomes. It's not even Hurts' fault. That's just one of the greatest of all time, Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, I guess looking at it that way, would it ever be anyone else but Mahomes? Like,
if it was from the NFC,
what quarterback would it be?
The NFC, no. This is the best. This is the best quarterback in or one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. I don't know. Goff wouldn't do anything for me, or neither would Jaden Daniels.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about their performance of the Super Bowl? Or are we talking about just overall, just the matchups? Who's
just matchups?
Overall matchups?
Who we're picking in this match? Yeah. So I was gonna say I think Hurts gonna outplay him, but that's just me.
Well, he did last time, I mean, we're projecting a little bit here.
Gotcha.
Who you guys got?
I would say then it has to be Mahomes. You have to go with Mahomes.
Yeah, it's Mahomes. And just like Angel said, you can make this argument in the AFC. You make this argument in the AFC Championship. But if you're talking about the Super Bowl, NFC versus AFC, there's no NFC quarterback.
He's literally going to be one of the faces of the NFL, like a history book, is Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Like, he's that kind of good.
Personally, as an Eagles fan, I love that this is happening. Because every time people start to pile on Jalen Hurts like this, just like last week, when everyone's like, well, Commanders have the clear advantage at quarterback, that's when Jalen Hurts plays his best. Yeah. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And as we'll see in a lot of these matchups, even though one team has the better single player at that position, the other player is not that far behind. Mm-hmm. It's just an elite player, and this is the greatest example.
I'll tell you what, Hurts has the better play. He has the tush push, which is near unstoppable.
Well, he has the more total touchdowns.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, it hasn't been all tush push. He's had several long runs.
No, I'm saying
he's ripped off chunks.
If they need one, Hurts can go get you a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's what he can do.
14 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, that's
double the yards of Mahomes. He's a weapon.
That's hard to do as a running back. 14 touchdowns, let alone as a quarterback.
But it's Mahomes across the board. Did I ask you, Andrew?
No, Mahomes. I got Mahomes. I feel it.
Let me just
cook.
Okay, I'm not making a prediction. But what I'm trying to do in this playoffs is just let's look at what makes sense. The Eagles are better almost every position group.
Yeah.
We just said the biggest gaps in position group are both in the Eagles' favor.
Yep.
Wide receiver and running back.
Yeah.
That's how they've won in these playoffs. Those guys making big plays. The defense has been really good. The defense has been better than the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And this is one of those years where we're like, Chiefs are winning. It just doesn't look right yet.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look right. Let's just be honest about it. He's winning, and all props to him. He's in the Super Bowl once again. He beat some great teams to be here. But what just makes sense, if you take the history and emotions, I get that's a lot, but what just makes sense is that the Eagles are going to win this game. Just on paper, that's what makes sense. And, everyone knows I'm going to pick the Eagles. That's what I'm going with, and I have a confidence about Sunday. I really do.
I think the biggest thing, too, that nobody's talking about and people seem to forget is the first matchup against them, Hurts did obviously outplay Patrick Mahomes, to me.
And that was against Spags. Spags was there.
Since Hurts' rookie year, I would dare anyone to find a game where he did not rise to the occasion. It's just what he does. I don't know. I can't recall a game. I don't know, AJ, you can help me out here.
I mean, there was the end of last season.
Okay. I'll give you that.
I mean, it was a tire fire across the board for the whole team, but
he definitely didn't put the team on his back.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel even in this playoffs, last week, everyone was piling on him, and he was by far the best quarterback on that field. Yeah. I trust Jalen Hurts. He just wins. The guy just wins. He balled out like Andrew said last time they played the Chiefs. Yeah. He's not afraid of this moment. He's played in championship games since high school.
His whole career.
And I heard a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of Eagles podcasts this week. This Eagles team is made up of players who've been in championship games since high school. All the Georgia guys, all the Bama guys they got, that's all they do is play in championships. And I think that's why in the first matchup and in this matchup, I totally trust them to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's tough.
Whereas, like, if the Commanders had gotten to the spot, like, I don't know. How are they going to react?
I think the argument could be the difference is that, while the Eagles beat them, wide receiver, running back, offensive lineman, the argument is that the main position, the reason why we put billions of dollars into this one position is that Patrick Mahomes has the edge over Hurts.
Yeah.
He's the one ultimately that could get the most out of the offensive line, can get the most out of the running backs, can get the most out of the wide receivers. So, again, I know you don't want to make it about Hurts, he needs to do, but this really comes down to Hurts. You have the better weapons. Now you just gotta outplay the other guy one more time.
What sucks is that Mahomes might have a bad game on stats, and he might just make with the one play.
Yeah,
and then Mahomes will get the glory, and Hurts will get. That's kind of what you saw.
It's the last Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Hurts outplayed him, but Hurts gets
it's
nothing.
The last Super Bowl. It's this whole year. This is kind of what I'm talking about. What makes sense? Like, are we sure Mahomes is like the best quarterback in this game right now?
But the problem is that that's how the Chiefs win with stuff that doesn't make sense.
Right.
That's
but like,
why
if we're going to talk about but if we're going to single out
what makes sense.
Hold on real quick. If we're going to single out Hurts versus Mahomes, then the other way around we can't be it's the Chiefs against Hurts. Like, no, then we have to single out Mahomes versus Hurts. And if you put up their seasons against each other, like the Eagles have won just as much as the Chiefs have this year in more impressive fashion, and Hurts' numbers are like more total touchdowns. Obviously, the passing stats are in Mahomes' favor, but I'm just not convinced. Like, oh yeah, Mahomes is like far and above the better quarterback in this game. I just don't believe it. And we've seen in the last Super Bowl just to like confirm that. Like, I don't know.
I think
not a huge gap.
It's gonna be hard for me to choose Mahomes and choose against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's just kind of it.
Because I think that's like the past just influencing like, and that is part of the conversation.
But yeah, and I know they haven't done it in impressive fashion, but they still have won. Like wins are still wins. Like they still have 15 wins.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much the past. That's what he's been doing this year. Maybe not as dramatically as Hurts, but that's if he did it last year and
so my point is like, but how does that make it better than Hurts? Because Hurts has done that too, but in a more impressive fashion.
Mahomes has the resume. Mahomes has Andy Reid. That's why it's different.
Okay, so I know, but you're jumping around. Like if we're gonna talk about this year, because you said he's won, he's won this year. Okay, well Hurts has done that too, but in a better way.
So to your point, I agree with what Joey's. I think Joey's saying is just overall he feels coming into this game, Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback right now. But I agree with them.
That sounds crazy even to hear.
And I agree actually. I do agree. He's just from this year, he is the better quarterback play wise. But like they said, you can't vote against him until somebody takes him off that mountain.
Yeah, and please, I don't want to end up with another Commander situation. I am not saying like Mahomes is.
Joey says Mahomes is no good.
Yeah, exactly.
If we take the exercise that we just did, where we split everything and we go head-to-head matchups. Then yes, you can close that gap.
That's all I'm saying
with Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. But then when you step back and put it all together, Mahomes elevates these receivers. Andy Reid elevates these receivers, and Andy Reid and Mahomes and the offensive line elevate these running backs. So I think that's where it's really, really hard to definitively say that. Oh, I think Hurts is just as good, if not better, than Patrick Mahomes in this game, because when you put it all together, you put the whole recipe together. It is what it is. It's
just tough.
I took Mahomes, but I'm just saying like everyone is saying like, well, this the Eagles roster is better, but just Mahomes is so much better than Hurts. No. I'm taking the Chiefs. When it's like you guys need to look at that gap and just take the red goggles off for a second.
Well, I can't speak for those fans, but I imagine what they probably meant was in this moment going into the Super Bowl. People are going to pick.
That's
Mahomes.
what I mean too.
Okay, I just wanted. I'm saying in that moment, I would say it's Mahomes, but
right. But here what I'm saying though, I am taking Mahomes as well. But what I'm saying is the gap between is the gap between Mahomes and Hurts big enough to overlook all the other position groups that the Eagles are better in? Yeah. No, and I feel like it's such an easy decision for people, and I don't understand that.
Because it's Pat. This is going to sound like I'm not listening to what you're saying. Because Mahomes has done it before, and he's done it with.
Because it's so hard to pick.
It's just hard to pick against him. I get it, but
he's doing it now with like a better on paper, on paper, playmakers than he had even last year, and he won it last year. It's just hard to pick against him, and like Age said, when you put him and Reed and all these guys, I'm sure it's gonna be. I'm sure Hurts probably will have a better stat line, but when the game counts, Mahomes is gonna come through and.